We are deeply attached to the idea that the voice of the many is wiser than the voice of the few. Popular opinion feels comforting, fair, and morally upright. If most people believe something, we assume it must carry a certain truth. After all, how could so many people be wrong? Plato, one of the greatest philosophers of ancient Greece, thought this confidence was dangerously misplaced. Living in Athens in the 4th century BC, the world's first democracy, Plato witnessed a society that proudly celebrated freedom of speech, public debate, and majority rule. Yet rather than inspiring admiration, this political system filled him with anxiety. Plato did not distrust people as such. What he distrusted was opinion untrained by reason. To understand his suspicion, we need to begin with Plato's teacher, Socrates. Socrates spent his life walking the streets of Athens, questioning politicians, poets, craftsmen, and ordinary citizens. Again and again, he discovered the same troubling pattern. People spoke confidently about justice, courage, leadership, and virtue, but when pressed, they struggled to explain what these things actually were. Their beliefs were inherited, emotional, or based on habit rather than understanding. For Plato, this posed a serious political problem. If most people do not truly know what justice or goodness is, why should their opinions decide the fate of an entire society? In The Republic, Plato offers one of his most famous metaphors to make this point: the ship of state. Imagine, he asks, a ship at sea. The crew are strong, loud, and convinced they know best. They argue constantly over who should steer. None of them has studied navigation. None understands the stars, the winds, or the seasons. Yet they insist that steering the ship requires no special knowledge, only confidence and popularity. Meanwhile, the actual navigator, the one trained in the art of sailing, is dismissed as useless, impractical, or arrogant. To Plato, this is what democracy often looks like. Governing a society, like navigating a ship, is a complex skill. It requires education, discipline, and long-term thinking. But popular opinion tends to favor what is immediately pleasing, emotionally satisfying, and easy to grasp. Plato believed that when leadership is decided by popularity alone, truth becomes secondary to persuasion. This fear was not abstract. He had seen it play out with devastating consequences. In 399 BC, Athens put Socrates on trial. He was accused of corrupting the youth and disrespecting the gods, vague charges fueled by public irritation and fear. A jury of hundreds of ordinary citizens listened to emotional speeches and voted narrowly to condemn him to death. For Plato, this was the ultimate proof of democracy's vulnerability. A society that prided itself on wisdom had executed its wisest man, not because he was guilty, but because he was unpopular and unsettling. This experience left a permanent mark on Plato's philosophy. He concluded that popular opinion is often shaped less by truth than by rhetoric, the art of persuasion. Skilled speakers, whom Plato called demagogues, could manipulate emotions, flatter fears, and promise comfort in order to gain power. Plato compared such figures to junk food vendors for the soul. In another striking analogy, he asks us to imagine a contest between a doctor and a pastry chef. The doctor prescribes bitter medicine, strict diets, and painful treatments, all for the long-term health. The pastry chef offers sugar, pleasure, and indulgence. If a crowd were asked to vote between them, who would win? The pastry chef, of course. Not because he is right, but because he is pleasant. Plato worried that democratic societies naturally reward those who tell people what they want to hear, not what they need to hear. Hard truths lose elections. Comforting illusions win them. This does not mean Plato believed only a tiny elite should ever rule. His concern was not with who people were, but how well they were educated. He believed that opinions should be shaped by philosophy, by careful thinking, self-questioning, and a lifelong pursuit of truth. Without this, democracy risks becoming a competition of noise rather than wisdom. Plato's solution, rule by philosopher kings, may feel unrealistic or even troubling to modern readers, yet his warning remains unsettlingly relevant. He asks us to reflect on a question we rarely confront honestly. Are our opinions truly our own, or are they simply the loudest voices we've heard repeated most often? Plato distrusted popular opinion not because he hated people, but because he loved truth, and he feared how easily truth can be drowned out when volume, charm, and confidence matter more than understanding. Perhaps his challenge to us is not to abandon democracy, but to take far more seriously the education of our minds before we raise our voices.